Hello, good morning, or good evening, wherever you are. Thank you for joining me again. The support has been phenomenal with me putting Saving Grace, my novel, on YouTube. Like I said, it was just time to get it out there for people to really understand how I'm coming and what I'm putting out here as far as a writer. Nothing against it, but it's just not self-help. It's not my biography. It's a fictional story that I created with fictional characters. So far we've read 1 and 2. So the main character, Parker Grayce, she committed suicide. We started at her funeral. In chapter 2, her sister went to the office to clean out all her belongings, and she found a journal. And so now we are into chapters 3, and then I also want to complete chapter 4. So let's just get into it. So chapter 3 is titled My Favorite Love Song. And right now we are still coming from the point of view of Paloma, but also you'll have some of Parker's journal stifled in as well. So I'm not gonna switch voices or anything, but I believe I wrote it well enough to where you can tell when we are inserting Parker's journal, and then in the actual book it's in italics. So this is Paloma, and again, this is chapter 3, My Favorite Love Song. I put Phoenix to bed and snuggled with my favorite blanket on top of our covers. When David and I first got married years ago, we vowed to never fall asleep without one another. Sometimes our days run long, but if both of us aren't in bed, neither of us gets the luxury of climbing under the covers and settling into our California king. We would wait patiently for the other to arrive and shower before joining each other in bed. It seems silly, but hey, it works for us. I asked myself again, are you ready to read her journal? She hasn't been in the ground 2 weeks. I took a deep breath and opened the first page. It was dated and had a timestamp in true Parker fashion. It read, every time I leave from with him, I feel the same way. Satisfied yet empty, happy but confused. We always have a wonderful time together, traveling, partying, sexing. Our vibe is amazing. I often wonder, why aren't you my lover? If I'm honest, I ask myself the question more than I would like to admit. There is always something in our way. Distance, girlfriends, a husband, work, and let's not forget the time there was a baby. Yes, an actual baby stopping us from being in a real relationship. You know, the kind that comes with going grocery shopping together, washing the car, or even just taking a hike on a Sunday afternoon. There is always a factor preventing us from being together, and me from becoming the beautiful bride I've always wanted to be. Mrs. Parker King. It sure does have a ring to it. I closed the journal for a few moments to grab a drink of water. I was surprised to see her mention her husband. It was a really stupid mistake she made on her senior trip to Vegas in college with her then boyfriend, Saint. He was no saint, closer to a sinner. The week after they got married, she found him sleeping with her tutor, and it turned out she was not the only one. It was a disaster. I smiled thinking of how Paris never forgets to remind her of the time she winged it and got married in Las Vegas. My dad pulled a few strings and she was able to have the marriage annulled. What a lifesaver. It was something she never quite lived down. She had known Kendrick since he was 10. He would come over with his mom while she cleaned our home. My dad believed in supporting Black-owned businesses. He heard good things about Janice and decided to hire her to clean our 6-bedroom home weekly. I call Kendrick her soulmate, kindred spirit, twin flame. He was the love of her life, and you could see it whenever they were around each other. They deserved to spend forever together, yet life shows us even a soulmate doesn't own your heart forever. I continued to read story after story. Parker was really open with Paris and I, yet I was shocked to see her dealing with so many demons on her own. I was deep into a story of when she met her friend Harley. I never really knew where Harley came from. One day she kind of just showed up to family dinner and stayed around. It was like feeding a stray cat. You feed them once and they stick around forever. Turns out she escaped a very dangerous living situation which led her to St. Anna. Her parents abused drugs, and when her mom would pass out, her stepdad would molest her, on top of her dealing with verbal and physical abuse since before she could remember. At 15, she had enough and ran away from home. To her knowledge, her family never even looked for her. She gained a new family with Parker and her friends. She was able to work and complete her GED. From there, she earned a 2-year degree as a surgical tech, which led her to also working under Doctors Mariah and Mitchell. Her future was bright. Before I could begin another story, my husband climbed into our king-size bed. He glanced over and asked, "Are you reading another book?" "No, it's actually Parker's journal. I thought I knew everything about my baby sister, but it seems as if I only knew the surface," I sighed. No one knows everything about another. Even someone as open as Parker can have her share of secrets. It's her right, he said in her defense. It is true, and I'm learning as I continue to read. I think I'm going to catch up with Kendrick this week to check on him. I really want to see how he is holding up, I told him. In one of her writings, she described him as her favorite love song. Isn't that sweet? David smiled. Yes, it is. Well, you know, you're my favorite love CD, and I never want to skip a song. He laughed at his own corny joke. I snuggled under David and made love to him a little longer that night. All right, I am actually going to go ahead and go into chapter 4, titled Addicted. We'll dive some more into Parker's and Kendrick's relationship, and we'll get a little bit more of Paloma's background and what she does as far as work. So let's go, chapter 4, Addicted. I had planned on meeting with Paris the next day, but he canceled on me early that morning. I received a 5 a.m. text. "Sorry, sis, I can't make it to lunch today. Can we do dinner later this week?" I didn't want to have dinner. I wanted to discuss a few personal matters, and it would be too late on a weekday to have David and Phoenix out. I asked Kendrick to meet with me instead. It was only Tuesday, yet I had a full schedule. It was wedding season, and it appeared everyone was aiming for the perfect spring or summer wedding, and I knew I was the girl when it came to perfection. I began my day meeting with Lennox, my assistant, via FaceTime to discuss my week. Things had gotten a little off track since Parker's death, but staying busy helped me to keep my mind off of the reality of her death. "Good morning, sunshine," Lennox exclaimed. It was a bit much for me so early in the morning, but her energy was contagious, and by the end of our call, I was ready to conquer my day. I met with Alex Kensington and her pretentious and overbearing mom, Helen. She was set to marry the son of current mayor, Zachary Holden. They both came from prominent families, but the Kensingtons fell on bad times after her father's death. He had an entire family his wife and daughter knew nothing about. Mixed with a few bad business deals, they were sustaining, but this marriage is equally a business deal and a match made in nepotism heaven. They greeted me with a church hug and a surprisingly sincere apology for my sister's death. No matter how much I tried to escape it, it seemed as if her death taunted me. I didn't want to forget, I just wanted it to not hurt so bad. "How are you and the family holding up, Paloma?" "Thank you for asking, Mrs. Kensington. We are doing well. Now on to happier things," I rushed. "Alex, have you finalized the colors for your wedding party? Once those are finalized, we can begin choosing flowers and working on those intimate details which will make your wedding unforgettable. Also, the venue. I have narrowed down a list of St. Anna's top locations and would love to visit a few with you next week," I continued. "Alex," I called out to her as she sat in what seemed like a daze. "Have you heard anything I said?" I questioned. "Oh yes, I apologize, Paloma. I haven't finalized the colors just yet, and I'm not sure about the venue. I'll get back to you on everything soon, she sputtered out. Very soon, I reminded her. We aren't able to go much further without these vital pieces to the puzzle. I'm used to brides being happier. Is everything okay? I asked. She glanced at her mom. Yes, everything is fine, she assured. Okay, well, I'm going to wrap up this meeting. I look forward to hearing from you. Please reach out to my assistant to schedule a time, I reminded her. I was looking forward to my meeting with Kendrick. I waited for Kendrick for what seemed like forever until he finally texted and stated his first meeting ran over and he would need to reschedule our lunch. I was eager to see him and told him I could wait a few minutes or meet at a closer location to him. A few seconds went by and he sent me his location. It was a little further out but put me closer to a client I needed to meet that afternoon. I arrived, and though he tried to straighten himself up, it looked like he hadn't slept since the funeral. Kendrick, are you okay? I asked, concerned. Yeah, I'm good, sis. The better question is, how have you been? He seemed a little geeked. I just wasn't sure on what. He rubbed my hair and then said, Man, you look just like Parker. Why would she do that to herself? I mean, I was always there for her when she needed me, and I know I messed up sometimes, but she could call on me whenever. He was near tears. Kendrick, he cut me off. You know, when she first started using those drugs, I asked her, what the fuck are you thinking? He continued. How could she fall into the typical cycle of a rich kid not knowing themselves, having the world at her feet and throwing it all away for a quick high? She assured me this wasn't her and she was just trying to sort some things out and she would shake the habit. His voice was a little louder. You knew she was using drugs? I asked angrily. I mean, she started getting them from some doctor she was seeing, and I guess she liked how they made her feel. She stopped seeing the doctor, but then turned to a street pharmacist. She didn't even tell me. My boy had to let me know he saw my girl hanging with some white girl, and they were coming to buy Xanax, he stated. I asked her what about her career, and she didn't seem to care. He shrugged. She thought she had it all figured out, and the doctors she worked with were wrapped around her fingers. I mean, she was dope at what she did, and her marketing and budgeting skills led to extreme growth for the company, but was it all worth it? He looked to me for an answer which I did not have. He continued with his rant. No one held her accountable, and when I tried to, she brushed me off and even would go weeks without seeing me. I had just taken in a lot of information, more than I could process at the time. I hugged him and assured him I loved Parker and had no idea this was going on. See, she hid it so well, I thought to myself. I found her journal and I did want to ask about the trip to California. Are you still expanding your business? I asked, needing to change the subject. I am. 1031 ENT is growing and branching out. I brought on a childhood friend, Brandon, as a silent partner, and Parker was going to lead our media and marketing department. We had so much planned, Lo. I just don't know how to go on without her. She was the love of my life. Who is supposed to fill her shoes, he asked. He again looked to me for answers I did not have. Don't worry, Kendrick, about all of that right now. I want you to be okay and take care of yourself, I said as I hugged him. I will, sis, he promised. I'll keep in touch with you. I have a few ideas regarding your company, and I would love for you to hear them out. I'm meeting up with Paris later this week. After our meeting, I'll let you know a little bit more about moving forward with 1031 ENT, I assured. Paris, how has he been? Kendrick asked. As best as to be expected, I responded. I understand. Tell P I said what's up, and to get up with me soon, he said. I will. We love you, Kendrick. Keep your head up and get some rest, I encouraged him. That's the end of chapter 4. So we introduced a new character, Brandon, who's coming on as Kendrick's silent partner for their entertainment group, 1031 ENT. We still need to figure out how Paris is going and handling things, which is Paloma's brother. And Paloma is still just trying to stay busy and stay focused. So we have a few more chapters to go, guys. It's getting good. Thank you so much for your support. This will be uploaded to my YouTube, LaPortia Mitchell. Thank you.